Joining me now is Bruce Thorrold from DairyNZ's strategy team to look at the exciting new research program DairyNZ has underway called Frontier Farms. And I'm so excited to hear about this. Bruce, it's lovely to meet you in person as well. We've done a lot of speaking on the radio, but nice to see you in the flesh. Look, tell us about the Frontier Farms project. How does this project help farmers?
Yeah, Atamare, Ro and everybody. And yeah, great to be in person. What a novel experience that is. So Frontier Farms is all about international competitiveness and it's all about the future. So right now we have a view on how we sit in terms of our relationships to our competitors, both bovine milk, but also the emerging competitors around plant-based products. So we want to understand where we sit now and where we think the future will be, and then design and test the ideas that are going to allow us to maintain our competitive advantage over our global competitors.
Now, around 95% of the milk that Kiwi farmers produce is exported. So we know that globally there are lots of challenges there affecting how milk is produced, and it's often driven by consumer preferences.
Yeah, well, when we've looked at some of the scenarios about the future, we've looked wider than just consumer preferences. And right now, obviously in the world, geopolitical forces are really important, consumer trends are really important, government legislation, which tends to reflect those. All of those are driving the competitive balance. And then we have information technologies and new tech and biotech, which also shifts the competitive ground. So, consumers are part of it, but there's a lot more going on than what they think.
Yeah, and especially in the last few years, there's a lot more going on than what we could even have imagined 4 or 5 years ago.
Absolutely. You look at supply chains, you look at fertiliser, input costs, you look at the whole roller coaster ride of capital and interest rates. It's a tough environment to predict the future.
So who are the first two competitors that you're going to assess as part of this project?
So we've started with bovine milk.
Yep.
And the way we've always thought about this is if world demand is going up, and it still is, who has got the capacity to make more milk to fill that demand? And at the lowest price, because that's where the competitive threat comes from. We have to be able to match them if we're thinking about cost of production. So the first place we've gone is the US, to the mega dairies there, the 2,000 to 10,000 cows, because those are the ones who have the cost of production and the scale to be able to respond. And for those who follow, Global Dairy Update, what you'll see is that while the rest of the world is still probably in negative growth territory, it's the US which is starting to lift production. So, there's an ocean of milk they can make in the US. They've got all the inputs, they've got all the land. Do they choose to do it? And so what does that look like?
So what work has been carried out so far?
So we've worked with our science team and with farmers and the guys from Perenag and Rotorua, and we've looked to map out the competitive balance between the US mega dairies and New Zealand systems in a range of scenarios. The point we were making before, it's the future's not certain. So scenarios to do with consumers, driving things, scenarios to do with nationalism and protectionism and trade barriers going back up again, and tried to kind of understand how those different scenarios affect the competitive balance.
So what are you seeing so far? Is there a competitive edge there for Kiwi farms?
Well, absolutely right now. But when we looked at it, what's really interesting is that in all those scenarios, if we're competing in a milk pool, what are the key things? That the key things are going to come down to cost of production and time productivity and transparency. So whether it's consumers or regulation, we need transparency in the way we produce.
So what kind of changes could farmers see on the first Frontier farm? What's it going to look like, Bruce?
Yeah, it's going to it should look really challenging. It should have a whole bunch of ideas in there, which half of us look at and go, well, that's never going to work. Because what we're trying to do here is throw the ball right out and go, if we really had to shift, where are the opportunities to shift from our current systems into systems that are more competitive, but they also need to deliver on our issues at home as well. And so the key issue in this we've really isolated and to focus on is time, people's time. where does time go in the system in farms, and how can we change the system to make better use of time and give people more time back to make their own choices.
And you say, you know, people might look at this and think, wow, that's so far flung. But so many things in farming, as I look around how the sector operates today, so many things were pipe dreams and just far out once upon a time.
Yeah. Well, it was 1983. I started with math in Rotorua as a district scientist, so I've seen a few things that were wacky ideas become mainstream.
Yeah.
But when I look at, looking at the work we're doing now, piloting some of these ideas, some of it is kind of novel and new, and some of it's reinventing old ideas in a new context. So if we think about time as the main driver, and we look at the US systems have a very flat time demand.
Yep.
So they calve every month. They milk for lactations longer than 12 months, all depending on pregnancy and mating. And so they have a very flat demand, and even within the day they have a very flat demand. So I was on a US farm 4 or 5 years ago, and they were milking 2,000 cows through a 22-a-side herringbone shed running 20 hours a day. So their whole labour profile, their whole time profile was very different. So, and you compare it with our system, and we've driven a huge biological efficiency matching the grass curve, but it's a hell of a time curve.
Yeah.
6 to 9 weeks of full-on calving, calf rearing, animal health, metabolics, colostrum cows, 5 mobs, and all going in all directions.
It's chaos.
It's organised chaos.
Yeah, It is very organised.
Yep, and then twice a day milking, very peaky. So the whole system is very peaky, both in time. So we've said, well, how do you shift that? And so there are some obvious contenders going to extended lactations. So half the cows calve every spring.
Yep.
Flatten out that demand. Go and flatten out your calf rearing demand, because now you're rearing half as many calves over a long period of time. Robotics, the variable. We've seen already how you can make once a day work.
Yep.
But once a day, of course, has a very interesting habit of making the demand peaky as well, because you're probably calving more cows.
Yeah.
As you've adjusted your stocking rate. So extended lactations. We want to have another look at robotics. The box machines we looked at 20 years ago, what can we do now with the new ones that are available? How do we bring in new technologies? How do we bring in the herding technologies, the halter and those sort of products, and have them shift the time around? How do we use robotic calf milking? There's a lot of ideas there, new and old, which we want to totally reshape the time demand of our systems.
How exciting. I guess the only limitation is the limitation of your imagination, really. Hey, so what are the next steps for the project?
So right now the guys are working on sort of piloting various of these arrangements. That's some of the animal side, but on the pasture side, many farms now, animals will get 2 or 3 breaks a day. The herding technology lets you give them 10 breaks a day if you want to. The Irish make quite a lot of use of 36-hour grazings. So our guys said, well, why wouldn't we just put the cows in a big enough paddock for a week? And just leave them there for a week. And if they run out after 6 days, we'll shift them then. And if they're still going after 8 days, well, we might top it or move them on. No worrying about where the fence goes. Put them in there. Use the behaviour monitors and maybe a little robot thing moving around measuring pasture mass to go, it's time to shift these cows out.
Wow.
Herd them back in automatically, and that's a whole lot of work and a whole lot of decisions taken out of your day, and decisions are time demanding.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. I love
So we could be back to night and
doing.
day paddocks yet. I'm just saying, some of the things we left behind 30 years ago.
Don't discount anything.
We could be bringing them back in with a new twist.
Brilliant. Everything is on the table. I love it. Bruce Thorrold, Strategy and Investment Leader at DairyNZ. Thanks so much for your time today and explaining the exciting new projects that you've got underway at DairyNZ. I look forward to hearing more.
Yeah, there'll be more to come for sure, Ro. Always a pleasure talking to you.
Brilliant.